Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Gina over here at Team A2IM. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar today. Today, I'm joined by Nielsen Music's Haley Jones and Jon Peck. Should you have any questions during the webinar, please submit them into the Q&A box. If you look at the bottom, you should see that Q&A box. You can go ahead and type your questions in there. And if there is anything that you want to ask privately to one of our panelists, there's also a chat function at the bottom where if you click that, you'll see that you are able to select who you'd like to send it to. Again, if you want to send it to one of the individual panelists, you can go ahead and do so there if you don't want to broadcast it to the entire webinar. They'll be answering your questions at the end of the presentation. If your question does not get answered during the webinar, though, one of Nielsen Music's team members will be reaching out to you directly via email. The Nielsen Music team will also be on site at Indie Week at a private table this year. Indie Week, again, is coming up on June 17th through the 20th. So if you or your team would like to learn more about how Nielsen Music can help you drive your business forward, definitely feel free to set up a one-on-one with them there. So without further ado, Haley and Jon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and sorry if you were waiting for me. I was here. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for making the time to join us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to A2IM for hosting. We appreciate that too. First, a little bit about who we are and what we do. My name's Haley. I have spent most of my career working in radio. Jon Peck is my partner. He's helping with the webinar today, so you'll know the voice when you hear it. Jon's worked with data and insights here at Nielsen for 10 years. When most people think of Nielsen, they think ratings, and Nielsen does that too. But we also have a whole Nielsen Music team that covers insights for pretty much every facet of the music industry. We are proud partners with Billboard. It's our data that drives the Hot 100 and all of the Billboard charts. We have a couple of products that help paint the music consumption picture today. Most widely used are Music Connect and BDS Radio, which you're going to see some data from today. And we do a couple of studies every year to help fill in any gaps that the consumption picture doesn't tell. Music 360, Entertainment 360 are those studies. These are some of our partners and clients. And with Indie Week quickly approaching, we thought it would be a good idea to do a really quick reset. It's not news that our industry is changing fast and feverishly, and I don't know about you, but sometimes I get so busy in my day-to-day role that it helps me to revisit that sort of 30,000-foot landscape view so that as you're staring at an upcoming agenda for something like Indie Week, you can figure out where it makes the most sense to spend your time. So let's start here. The first few slides come from Music 360. Music 360 is that syndicated study I mentioned a minute ago. It has about 3,000 people from all over the country matched to the population. And essentially, it's based on consumer behavior around music. So we're looking at self-reported responses and when asked about music listening habits and consumption. The good news is that with more options than ever, people are listening to more music than ever. Yay. 88% of the general population listens to music, and probably not a big surprise, but time spent streaming is up. 37% of those we talked to said they used streaming services in the last week. So worth noting here, we're just putting Music 360 into the field for 2019, typically a summer project for us. So the data you're looking at here is from 2018. It wouldn't surprise me to see some of these numbers change a little bit. So if people are listening to more music than ever, how are they doing it? And again, probably not a huge surprise to see radio is still reaching more people than any other platform. Do you notice the darker blue bars here represent listening habits in the last year? The lighter blue bars represent listening habits in the last week. And since radio is still an important piece for reaching the masses, I borrowed this slide from our friends at Nielsen Audio, aka Nielsen Ratings. These are the biggest radio formats. These are 12 plus numbers from all over the country. So PPM markets, diary markets put together. These are top formats based on average quarter hour share. So you could say 13.2% of the radio listening audience is listening to country radio. Country, number one, followed by adult contemporary, number two, followed by pop. Here's the rest of the story. If radio's king, on-demand streaming is queen. This is share of clock when listening to music. So that when we asked, when you're listening to music, how are you doing it? You're using which platform? And while radio still gets a high percentage of the clock, 32% in 2018, look at how widely used the streaming platforms are. Radio in red here, on-demand streaming in blue, on-demand audio in the darker blue, on-demand video in the lighter blue, and physical CDs and albums down to just 12%. But when I go to Spotify, I listen to playlists. So looking at this slide, I'm pretty typical. Of those we talked to for Music 360, 78% said they listened to playlists. On the right-hand side of the slide, which types of playlists are the most popular? User-generated playlists, number one answer at 46%, followed by auto-generated playlists based on your music listening habits. And since some of this got cut off, number three, playlists by genre or mood. And number four is playlists based on popularity. So how about discovering new music? Radio leads the pack in music discovery. So for my promotions friends, your role is still very much relevant, but do notice how quickly the streaming providers are catching up. 41% said they discovered new music on the radio. 38% said they discovered new music and artists on their favorite streaming apps. And friends and family, still pretty important, as are those syncs. You can see 24% said movies and soundtracks. So where Music 360 gets more interesting, to me anyway, is when we focus on key demos like we did on this slide. Here we're looking at teens, Hispanics, and millennials, and taking that a step further, we're also showing where they over-index. So notice the numbers in the brackets. These are indices, and indices are what happens when you compare these groups to the general population, so that anything over 100 means more likelies. Anything under 100 would show less likelies, though I don't think we have any less likelies on this slide, but so that you get it. And while 35% of teens are discovering new music using playlists, you could also say that teens are 93% more likely to discover new music using streaming playlists. And check out how significant video games are when it comes to discovering new music, both for teens and for millennials. Side note, I noticed there's a panel at Indie Week coming up called The Intersection of Gaming and Music. Might be a good one to attend. Here's what happens when we look at music habits of fans of different genres. Starting at that 10,000-foot view. Hip hop fans are really passionate about their music, listening to a full 38 hours of music every week, followed closely by alternative rock fans. Here's how fans of different genres are streaming. Hip hop, alternative, and EDM fans are streaming more than fans of other genres. But when it comes to paying for a music subscription, you can see at the bottom of the slide, fans of EDM are outpacing fans of other genres. And if you're wondering how big of a budget you should be setting aside for a promo tour, music festivals, you might appreciate this slide. Here is how important live music is for fans of different genres. While just over half of everyone we talked to said they'd attended some sort of live music in the last year, notice how much more important live music is for both EDM fans and alternative rock fans. Taking that a step further, here's what kind of live music they said they attended in the last year. Alternative fans, country fans are 51% and 31% respectively more likely to go to, say, Lollapalooza or Austin City Limits, for example, than fans of other genres, whereas hip hop fans, EDM fans, and pop fans tend to prefer a smaller club show with DJs. And check out that high index for EDM fans, where they are a full 2.5 times more likely than fans of other genres to go to those club shows with DJs. So that's a little look at the behavior around music. What can we learn from the actual consumption? Again, starting at that 10,000-foot view of all music consumption by genre last year. This is from our year-end report. We're currently getting ready for our mid-year report, which should be out early next month. And with the news that Apple's shutting down iTunes, I'd expect to see the trend that you see here continue. Sales are down, streaming is up, and pretty much every category and every genre, streaming is now the #1 or the majority of consumption. Here's what on-demand streaming looks like year over year. So 2016 in blue, 2017 in purple, 2018 in green. This is all on-demand streaming. So selections of music made on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, etc. Year over year, nearly 43% gains with both audio and video. And what's interesting here is how fast audio streaming is growing. Video up 30% year over year, while audio streaming is up a full 50%. This is what happens when you take all of those 882 billion streams and you divide them into core genre buckets for 2018. This is where I'd be remiss if I didn't take one moment to say hip hop really is the dominant force in music today, capturing nearly 30% of all the streams last year. Next is rock, which is kind of surprising because you always hear, and I have my air quotes up right now, rock is dead, and then comes pop. And if you're at a label that focuses on Latin music or country music, before you dismiss the streaming data because, quote, only 8% or 6% of the streams from last year were in your genre, doing the math, 8% is still 70 billion streams and 6%, 53 billion. So here's that genre data from a different perspective. This slide shows volume of streaming by genre from last year, and you can clearly see what you saw on that last slide. Hip hop kind of ruling the roost, at least when it comes to volume of streams. But notice the numbers at the top here. This is streaming growth, 2018 compared to 2017, and the most growth comes from country and rock. 54% year-over-year growth in the country genre for on-demand audio, 41% year-over-year growth for rock video. Which is interesting, is I've noticed a number of people make assumptions about who is streaming and what they're streaming. One of the assumptions I hear, especially from programmers in smaller markets, people aren't streaming in my market, which is not true. Sure, the volume might be smaller because the population is smaller, but on this slide, the top 10 markets by on-demand streaming growth. This slide shows a rolling year, so I pulled the data last week. This is all on-demand audio, so not genre specific. So streaming has grown in Monroe, Louisiana, 162% year over year, followed by Macon, Georgia at 141%. The takeaway, to me anyway, from the last two slides, while on-demand streaming might have started as an early adopter thing with young hip-hop fans on the left coast and the right coast, the tipping point has arrived. As one of my favorite album titles ever says, everyone else is doing it, why can't we? Here's another assumption I hear all the time. People are only streaming new music. Not true. People, even streamers, like familiar music. In fact, of all the streams done in 2018, 70% of them were catalog streams. Catalog here, by the way, means music 18 months and older. Notice the most current leaning of the genres, hip hop and Latin, and the most catalog leaning of the genres, rock and Christian. Another good panel you might want to attend at Indie Week, making the most of your catalog. So just in case you're wondering where all those streams are coming from, here is all of our streaming providers. We're processing about 20 billion streams every single week at Nielsen Music, and we're pulling that data into both Music Connect and BDS Radio. This is what it looks like in Music Connect. This is the homepage where you can search for any album, artist, or title. In this case, I use Trampoline by Shaed, Alternative's #1 song right now. Kind of cool that both alternative and country #1 songs are from indie labels. So Connect gives you a quick overview of how this song is doing. 3 green up arrows are a good sign, showing that consumption is up week over week. Trampoline sold 2,300 digital copies this period or this week. It streamed 2.3 million times this week, which is up 8% week over week. And that ATD number at the bottom of the boxes is activity to date. Connect does so much more than what we have time to show you today. Notice on the left-hand side some of the navigation, just to give you an idea. There are like nearly 200 charts available in Connect. You can pull a ranked list for any market or any genre. And here is a sample trend report from Music Connect. This shows daily data by equivalence, by ISRC, by on-demand streams, program streams, digital song sales, and airplay by market. In this case, we're looking at still Shaed Trampoline in my hometown of San Francisco, and also in each report, year-to-date and activity-to-date data also. And for your promotions teams, this is what that same data looks like in BDS radio. This is the country chart, fresh as of yesterday. Morgan Wallen, #1 with whiskey glasses, sorted on airplay, which you can see here with that gray shading behind airplay rank. And there are 2 streaming columns that pull in both national and local streaming in BDS. You'll notice right now I have the local streaming set on Dallas, but it's super easy to change the market. And you can see and choose from any of the top 200 in DMAs here. Here's that same chart sorted on Dallas streaming. Now, the reason we left national next to local streaming is so that you could have an index, if you will. Is this song doing better or worse in Dallas than it is everywhere else? So if you're getting ready to call Dallas, you can see Love Ain't is doing better in Dallas than it is everywhere else. And to show the opposite, notice Thomas Rhett is doing worse in Dallas than it is everywhere else. And since ranks don't tell the whole story, when you hover over anything in blue in BDS, you get more information. In this case, real actual volume of streaming week over week. Another way lots of people are using BDS is to show how songs are being played on the radio versus how people are consuming them by market. So that here, notice, Beer Never Broke My Heart, #13 on the country chart, yet it's the 4th most streamed country song in Dallas. Good to know if you're gonna call radio in Dallas. #4 in Dallas, by the way, good for 136,000 streams this week alone. So a super quick snapshot of what we do at Nielsen Music. Music 360 2019 will be out this fall. Music Connect and BDS Radio to help you with your data needs, whether it's for your promotions teams, for marketing, publishing, booking. We're happy to show you any of our products and to share the deck with you. Our contact information is coming up. And we'll see you at Indie Week. Hannah Karp, by the way, the new editorial director at Billboard, doing a State of the Industry panel. Hopefully you can add that to your agenda. Maybe she'll share a little bit about Music Connect Global and a highly anticipated first ever global chart we've been busily working on behind the scenes. And Jon Peck, my partner, doing a bunch of 101s at Indie Week if you'd like to discuss any of the above further. And speaking of Jon Peck, we're ready for your questions.
Hey guys, how are you? Happy to answer any questions you may have. And as Haley did mention, I will be in New York at Indie Week for 101s to talk a little bit about what you guys do, learn about your priorities, and also talk about what we're working on for Nielsen Music. You know, Haley alluded to a little bit about Music Connect Global as well. So lots of exciting new things in terms of getting outside of North America into some international territories, covering some streaming and digital song sales as well. So any questions you guys have, happy to talk through those. If you're curious at all where the data Haley presented today came from, most of it did come from Music Connect, as well as, which is our newest music consumption tracking product for those that aren't familiar, tracking sales, airplane, streaming all in one place. Also from Music 360, which is our annual music consumer survey, talking about all ways people experience music, whether that's through live or devices they may use, streaming services, things like that. So any kind of interesting consumer tidbits we get from those sorts of studies, and then also from BDS Radio, our industry-leading radio airplay tracking products. So happy to talk through any of those now or in a couple of weeks in New York.
Did questions come up as I was rambling on?
You seem to cover everything very thoroughly, Haley. So far, no questions.
No,
so very well done.
All right.
Yeah.
I left time for questions at the end.
Yes. So I do not see anything popping up currently. So A2IM, is there anything else we want to cover, or should we go ahead and close it out?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, Haley, you did a really thorough job, and that might be why there's not anything popping up. I think that, yeah, you know, the presentation was everything that you outlined was super clear. If anyone does have any last minute questions though, that Q&A box is right there at the bottom of your screen. You can just go ahead and type it there.
Here's our contact info too. Like if you want a copy of the deck or if you want to reach out with questions later, you can reach John or me via these email addresses that are on your screen.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, if there aren't any questions, I don't know, Haley, John, if you guys have any last minute remarks. I did see one thing pop up there, John, for you.
Yep. Sure. So there's one question someone is asking about when the global data will be coming into the system. So the global data in terms of a portal for Music Connect is available now. It launched a couple of weeks ago. We are covering digital song sales and streaming data in over 180 countries internationally across Europe, South America, some areas in Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Japan. So lots of new, interesting consumption data filtering through globally. And that is available now if anybody's interested in a demo to take a look at what that looks like, or to subscribe and get that information for yourself to see how your artists are performing internationally.
Thank you, A2IM.
Yeah, of course. So if no one else has any other questions, again, this slide here does have Haley and John's contact information, so I would definitely take it down so that if you do think of anything at a later time, definitely reach out to them. You can also let us know, and we can help get that information over to them as well. But thank you so much, Haley and John, for this awesome presentation. Again, I personally think it was really informative, and you did a really great, thorough job of explaining everything. So thank you so much for taking the time to share that with the community. Thank you also to everyone that attended and watched this webinar. We really do appreciate everyone's participation. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
Yep, you too, everyone. Have a nice day. Thank you again for coming.